Hello, everyone. Richard Carlton. Welcome to this awesome day of FileMaker Training here at fmtraining.tv. I'm going to press the button here real quick. If it works, there we go. You go to the FM Training website and press the button on the left so you can see the upcoming live broadcast training action. So this is today is with HOnza from 24U. HOnza is actually quite sharp. In fact, he comes on periodically and gives us some really great analysis. He also has some great products and services. So at some point today, we might ask him to give a quick update on that stuff. But that being said, today is all about a follow-up to FileMaker 19.5. Clara said, yeah, if you use this stuff, it's 20,000% faster, and we'll give you the winning lottery numbers if you use it. And we're like, yeah, I don't know about that. It seems a little suspicious. So what we're going to do is we're going to have HOnza give us the true metrics of any performance improvements or performance degradation. If it goes slower, we're going to find out about that too. It's very exciting. Tomorrow, such a funny thing. We're going to have a conversation about licensing. So today is not really part of our junior training 30-day event. We're just kind of had to insert this in for those of you on Zoom. It's going to be educational. It's not necessarily targeted towards beginners or intermediate or advanced. It's just kind of a performance outline on that area of things. So reminder, this is all free. The training today is free. Everything is free. If you would like some paid content or paid materials, check out our training materials here at under the bundle section. Purchase the complete bundle. It's how you support the channel, how you get detailed training on topics you want to learn about. For example, today we're picking the topic. Every day I pick the topic. We take questions from you. But if you want to talk about something else, we're probably going to kind of ignore you, right? So if you want to talk about, say, script triggers today, we probably won't talk to you about that. But if you wanted to learn about script triggers, you go to the paid training that you'd purchased and go to that section. There's a whole section of videos on it. So very exciting. So I'm going to ask HOnza to unmute himself. HOnza, are you there? Where are you?
I'm here.
You are there. So 24U. This is HOnza's company right here. He does amazing stuff. One of the things he does so good that I just quit bothering to do it is the performance measuring, performance metrics of certain versions of FileMaker. So that's kind of why HOnza's here today, to kind of give us the inside scoop if FileMaker 19.5 is faster or if it's slower. So do you want to talk about what you've discovered with 19.5 and we can ask you questions? Yes? Can we ask you questions while we're going? Yes?
Yes, definitely. But I would like to start with just a few things, how I actually got there. So
okay, so why don't you show your screen if you want to show your screen?
I'm sharing my screen now.
Your face. All right, great, excellent.
Here, the first thing, before I talk about FileMaker 19.5 specifically, we have just before testing FileMaker 19.5 updated our bench test, which is the tool that I use for comparison of performance of different versions of FileMaker and different configurations, and also the websites where the results are published. So let me show it on the web first. So on the web, if you go to tools, you will find it under developer tools here, and it's called bench test. So this is the tool. You can download it for free. You can install it on your own FileMaker server, connect to it with the client, and just press the start button to start your standard test. And once the test is done, you will be prompted to submit your test results. And this is where the results will appear. And originally we had just two tabs here, where one was for a locally open file and another one was for FileMaker Pro connecting to FileMaker Server. But we have updated it to have more categories here because they're much different in terms of performance impact. So it's good to have them separate so that the relevant data comes up.
That makes sense. Good. Okay, cool.
So basically,
for those of you wondering, like if Ruben on Discord did a test, it would say Ruben over here, whatever. It allows you to benchmark your kind of setup against maybe someone else's setup. Not so much as a race between Ruben and say David Angel, but so you know that if yours is way off, you know something is wrong with what your setup is, or something's not configured correct. So anyway,
exactly. And another great thing here is the wide area network. So if you are looking for having FileMaker Server hosted on cloud, there's no better place to test how fast your hosting is compared to other hostings which have the results already published there. The only other thing about bench test, and then I will switch straight to the results, is there was one thing that I had to fix in bench test based on feedback from users who were using it to test their solutions. And that's one thing that was added recently. Last year, FileMaker 19.3 was the first one which allowed you to perform JavaScript in FileMaker, and this can be used as a performance optimization tool. This is an example of calculation using JavaScript, calculating 10,000, calculating all the prime numbers between 0 and 10,000. If I use calculation in FileMaker natively instead of the JavaScript, it takes 4 seconds.
Wow.
So JavaScript can help you a lot, but there is one caveat which I had to work around, and that's fixed in this version. And the fact, the issue is that in some configurations, specifically on Windows, it's happening very often. If you go to a layout, even if you with a web viewer where you have the JavaScript, even if you refresh window, after that refresh, the JavaScript in the web viewer may not yet be ready to perform. So one workaround is to have a loop where you loop for a certain amount of time. In this case, I use 5 seconds timeout until you know that the JavaScript starts working, and then you can use it to perform your task. The other workaround is simply to have the web viewer on your layout where you are triggering the JavaScript from ahead of the moment where you need it.
Okay, let me ask about this because I haven't heard about this. So if you're on Windows, you jump to a layout that has a web viewer on it, straightforward. The web viewer has its own JavaScript code in the web viewer.
Yes.
There is a delay till that web viewer is active, or it's a delay until it starts running, or
there is
can you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah. So basically, FileMaker since 19.3 has this script step called perform JavaScript.
Right.
In web viewer. If you run this script on empty web viewer that doesn't have any code to trigger, it does nothing. If you run it on a web viewer that has your JavaScript, there is a certain delay before the page in the web viewer is actually fully loaded and rendered by the web engine that's displaying it.
Okay.
And until it's fully loaded, trying to perform JavaScript within that page doesn't work.
And you reported this to Claris, and what they say?
Well, I didn't report it. It's a known issue. Even before having performed JavaScript in WebViewer, there was issue with if you wanted to run JavaScript in WebViewer too early, it didn't work. So even people came up with some workarounds, like function that basically checks whether it's ready or not, and keeps waiting until the JavaScript is fully ready for performing any work. So it's like if you load a web page in a browser, and loading the page takes a few seconds, and you have some interactivity on the page, interactive features. Those features don't work until the page is fully loaded.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, cool. All right.
And so in this case, the delay may be 100 milliseconds or so, okay. But still, what can happen is that FileMaker will try to execute this script step too early, and it won't work. So this my workaround here was to try it several times. The other workaround is simply to have the web viewer on the layout where you want to run it instead of jumping to another layout.
Okay. All right, cool. So you fixed
So,
that.
So that's just a small update about bench tests as our tool and the results on the web. And now the next thing is actually the results that I collected by trying FileMaker 19.5, comparing it to 19.4 on various configurations. I tested it on MacBook Pro with Intel processor, MacBook Pro with M1, connecting to server running on the old Mac Pro 2008 running Windows, as well.
Okay. Let me walk through this a little bit. I know, but so the first one up here is a local file. Is that the first one at the top?
So the local files are not here at all. These all charts are from testing FileMaker Pro connecting to FileMaker Server.
Okay, what are they doing? They're connecting, or what is being done here? What's the work?
So what is being done is in bench test there is a series of 111 performance tests, different tasks, and what I'm trying with bench test is to get as close as possible to a real use of FileMaker. So instead of like running meaningless thing 1,000 times and saying, well, now this shows that it's fast, I try to combine actions that are typically used in solutions like performing finds, importing data, exporting data, calculating summaries, using even things like typical virtual list functionality, like running a server-side script to get some data to display in virtual list and so on.
Okay, so it's it's an average of tests, right? It's a bunch of
So this, what is shown here is actually a score. I performed that series of tests here, series of tests on my reference setup, which is the Mac Pro 2008 with a MacBook Pro with i5 processor connecting to it over LAN. That's my reference test. And everything here is showing that the specific setup is either faster or slower than the reference setup. So it's a score, and if the score is, let's say here, 4.5, that means that configuration was overall 4.5 faster than the reference setup.
Over 400%, yeah. Okay, so between 19.5 and 19.4, you have a test right here that would compare to the
exactly, and here
this one right here, right?
I actually tried two configurations. One was MacBook Pro i5 connecting to Mac Studio, and the other one was MacBook Pro M1 connecting to Mac Studio.
Okay. So yeah, so it's what's the percentage here? Jacob Taylor, are you there? But it's another 10%. Is that 20%? What's the difference between like this one right here compared to that one? So that's say 4 to 4. Yeah,
it's about 10%.
Okay, 10%.
That's not bad. I like it.
Yeah. So basically, overall score is about 10% better for FileMaker 19.5 compared to 19.4.
Okay, all right.
But when I try to look at the individual tests, and as I mentioned, this score is calculated from 111 different tests.
Yep.
When I tried, so the result here is 19.5 is slightly faster than 19.4 overall.
Okay.
When I try to look at individual tests, not individual tests yet. The other test that I ran, and this is also something that the bench test is unique in. What it can do is it can measure, it can run the test set of those 111 tests on multiple users concurrently. And unlike running multiple scripts on the server, this is real multiple clients. So it's again closer to reality in testing than any other testing effort. And the way I do it here is that I'm actually running VMware on the Mac Pro. I don't know what it's called officially, but everyone calls it the trash can. So I have that Mac Pro trash can with VMware, and I basically run 10 clones of the same virtual machine running FileMaker Pro, connecting to the server to make these tests. And in this test with 10 concurrent users, the result was the opposite. So in this test, 19.5 was actually slightly slower.
Yeah.
So this is just rough results, but when I dive into the details and look at specific tests, one of the most interesting tests is replacing field value in large amount of records.
So you're doing a replace command, either manually or scripted?
Yeah, yes, I'm actually running both tests. I'm using replace and as an alternative. I'm trying loop set field in a loop. So I can compare which one is faster and how it performs. And in all the tests since since FileMaker 16. With working, if you're replacing value in a single field, then replace is slightly faster than looped set field. If you're changing multiple fields, that's the moment where loop with a set field can become faster. But the interesting thing here is that, and I revealed this for the first time with FileMaker 18, when the speed of looped set field started to degrade. Back in FileMaker 12, that was amazingly fast. Like when I compared FileMaker 12 to FileMaker 11, in FileMaker 12, running a loop with a set field was maybe 3 or 4 times faster in my tests. Now, but with the latest versions, with every new version, it was becoming a little bit slower. So like you can see that 19.4 here is slower than is actually this is for the first time when it's not so. But when I compared 19.3, 19.2, 19.1 last year, every increase of the version number was a little bit of slowdown of the looped set field. Wow. Now with 19.5 is the first time that reversed and it actually became faster again. So that's quite interesting discovery. But even more interesting discovery here is that look at the configuration. These tests that you marked are all still slower than the reference setup, which was I think using FileMaker 16, connecting from the MacBook Pro to the old Mac Pro 2008. So that was, I think it was 16 as the reference, but I'm not sure from the top of my head. I can look it up later. But when I ran Ubuntu 20 on the same Mac Pro with FileMaker 19.5, that was even faster. So there are cases where Ubuntu seems to be a lot faster than any other setup for FileMaker Server.
Which is funny because there are situations where, what is it, Jacob summary fields or something, they're like half as fast, right?
Yeah, correct. Someone
Yeah.
did some testing, and the server side summary function is 40% slower or something.
I still don't know exactly what are the exact conditions that have the biggest impact, but based on my test from this week and last week, it seems that what is actually faster in Ubuntu is networking and probably writing to the database. So if you have your FileMaker server on a cloud, on a hosted server, where the network impact is the most important impact, or the network speed is the most important factor, that's where Ubuntu or Linux, compared to Windows or Mac, is probably going to shine much more than on a local network. But that's just based on a few tests. I'm not sure this is the primary factor, but at least from the tests that I ran in the last 2 weeks, network seems to be one of the higher or more important factors than anything else. The next one I was going to try was summaries and aggregate functions, because what Claris announced as one of the speed improvements in FileMaker 19.5 was that it can calculate summaries on the server. So I was quite interested in seeing how it performs when calculating summaries. Interestingly enough, I didn't find any significant difference here in the standard tests, but after I thought about it a little bit more, I discovered why. Because what I do in the bench test is a series of operations. And the operations that I do start with importing data, exporting data, replacing field contents, all that stuff. As a result of this, when I get to testing summaries, I have all the data in the cache. So there is no difference in speed of calculating summaries between 19.5 or 19.4, simply because the data is all in cache, so there is no reason to calculate it on the server.
Okay, I want to ask a question about that. That brings up a really great question. This goes back to not only summaries, but what was the other? Sorting on the server side. So for those of you wondering how this all works, real quick, on FileMaker Server, starting with the newer versions of Server 19.4 and 19.5, Claris tries to offload some of the stuff that your client would do. It does it on the server for you and then sends the results. However, if the local client has all the data already, I'll say that again, if the local client has all the data already needed to do the sort or needed to do the summary, it's likely that the local client might be as fast or faster than the server, right? And so when you're doing this, and I'm just doing a little color commentary here, and I'm going to ask a question here at the end of this for HOnza, is that normally if you have the server up here and you're the client down here, so they say this is Ruben, okay, this is Ruben down here. He's a very happy person. He likes frogs, okay? And so if Ruben is going to run a calculation, say like 1 million records, there's 1 million records, million records, okay? For him to sort this or do a summary, FileMaker has to shove all the data down here to him. This is historically how it's worked. Then Ruben's Copia Pro processes it and gets him a value. The new system, if I undo that a little bit, there we go, you get 1 million records. So what it does is it says, oh, the server's not too busy, so I'll do it for you up here and not send you all the data, right? And then I just send you the results, okay? So it does all the work. So one way it sends you all the data and you do the work. The other way is it just does the work for you and doesn't send you all the data, right? But if Ruben's already been busy doing a bunch of stuff, which is what HOnza is saying, and Ruben through a bunch of other looking at lists and looking at reports and doing whatever he does, he has all the records. Then if he does a sort or a summary, will server have him do it locally instead because there's no benefit, right? And so that's my question. If you have all the cache data, right, HOnza, does server still do it for you, or does it let you do it locally?
Yeah, I'm going to answer it in a moment, because here I discovered I need more testing. So this is
Okay. Sorry.
this is exactly what I was doing today to prepare a fresh content just for this stream.
Yeah.
So I looked at what Clarice announced, and that was I wanted to test specifically the totals. So I used the bench test where I generated test data with a stored calculation containing the random function. So it's stored calculation, no need to calculate it on the client. I generated 100,000 records, and I was either picking 40 of them, which is just a small subset, or all, and calculating the total of that random calculation once using the sum function over a relationship. And the second time, I tested the same thing by having a summary field in the target table, but looked at it over the relationship. So I was doing the same thing two different ways. In the past, whenever I tested these two approaches, they were nearly equally fast. So back in a few years ago, someone asked me, is it better to use aggregated calculation, or is it better to use summary fields? And after I tested it several times, I could easily say, well, it doesn't matter. Do whatever you prefer, what you feel more comfortable with, because they are equally fast. Now, so I wanted to test this in 19.5. So I ran this on FileMaker Server 19.5, and I was connecting to it using either FileMaker Pro 19.4 or 19.5. And I verified that really this is one of the conditions that triggers whether the summary calculation happens on the server or not. They need the client and the server both need to be at least 19.5 for this feature to work. Okay. And I tested it with two different servers, one running on the Mac Pro, one running on the Mac Studio. And for the Mac Studio, I also ran the same tests over a simulated WAN. So basically, I used the control panel from Apple tool called Network Link Conditioner, and I simulated a very slow ADSL connection to the server to see how the calculation of the total performs on a hypothetical WAN connection. Okay. And these are the results. It's a lot of numbers, so let me show it in a graphical form. When testing Mac Studio over LAN, I calculated and I use sum total.
This first one, that's an aggregate function. That's a sum function. Okay.
Exactly. And these, by the way, these bars are time. These bars are not score like in the previous.
So and the total here, this is a summary field, is what you're saying on this one?
Yes, that's a summary field.
Okay, so this one is.
Sorry, I actually screwed up this chart. Sorry.
Quick question from Martin, but it's kind of about bench test. When I download the bench test tool, thanks for sharing it, and want to test my server service, I upload it to my server and then start the tests?
Yep. Yes, you upload the bench test on the server. Actually, you have to download the two parts. One is the bench test tool, and the other one is the test data. You put all that on the server, open it, connect to it from a client, and press the button to start the test. That's it.
So you're going to connect to it from a client like Pro, right?
Yeah.
There you go. All right, cool. So now we're going to go back here and relook at this. Is this correct now? Is this correct?
Okay. So I was a little bit confused, but it is correct. It was correct. the thing that confused me was that the calculation of summary calculation on 19.4 was actually the fastest.
Yeah, that's what I was.
field.
That's what I was looking. It's completely inverted over here, right? It's flipped.
So yeah, so that one, and I will get to it. It doesn't make this one isn't so important because as you can see in the time in the bottom, those all are milliseconds. So here, total in 19.5 versus 19.4 seems to be 1.4 times faster, but because of the small amount of time, there the accuracy of this measurement is really small because there can be overhead of something happening in the OS or something like that. So any result under, let's say, half a second is very inaccurate.
Okay.
So let's get to the next one.
Okay.
The next one is Mac Pro over LAN, again summarizing 40 of the 10,000 records, and this one is already more significant, even though it's still under 1 second. It's still under half a second, but here it's obvious that 19.5 calculating summary field is significantly faster. And when I tried it multiple times, I got the same results. So this is already more accurate. Let's get to the next one, and that's Mac Studio over simulated WAN, again calculating summary of 40 records. Now this is becoming quite interesting. Yeah. Around 3 seconds in all the 3 other cases, but less than a second.
So this is a summary field, correct?
Summary field.
So, and that is on the Pro 19.5 and Server 19.5. Both
yes,
are 19.5,
exactly.
must be 19.5. So those of you who like to mix and match like FileMaker 18 and FileMaker 19, you're not going to get this benefit, right?
Yeah, but this is the point where my advice that I was giving until now is no longer valid. The summary versus aggregate function no longer the same. Summary fields get the optimization that Claris has brought into 19.5. Aggregate functions don't get it. Whether they will get the same optimization in the future, I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's move forward. The next test is with trying to calculate the total of all 10,000 records. First, on the slowest, not the slowest, the fastest one, the Mac Studio over LAN. And here we get 6 times faster result on 19.5 versus 19.4.
That's a lot.
And this is on a MacBook Pro connecting to Mac Studio, the brand new Mac with M1 Max processor.
But that doesn't matter because it should be the percentage improvement should be consistent. Right.
And you will see it's not. So,
really?
So this is the fastest configuration.
Okay.
Now let's get to the other one, the old Mac Pro from 2008. That's 14, if I calculate correctly, 14 years old computer running FileMaker Server 19.5 on Windows.
Okay.
By the way, if you're curious why I'm running Windows on the Mac, that's because the Mac Pro 2008 will no longer run the latest Mac OS, which FileMaker will run on. So to run FileMaker Server on the Mac Pro 2008, you have to run it on either Windows or Linux. Funny, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's funny. I have a lot of old machines that I'm not sure what to do with anymore because they won't run the operating system. All right, cool. Well, show us the results. Show us the results.
Mac Pro.
Wow.
Surprised. I was surprised as well. I was so surprised that I had to run the test multiple times. And the procedure was simply quitting FileMaker Pro, clearing the cache, connecting again, running the test to make sure that it's not affected by any kind of cache data or anything like that. Consistent results. So in this situation, 19.5 calculating the summary field was 75 times faster. Now let's get to the simulated WAN. Are you ready? Sitting?
Okay, well, I'm not allowed to shit my pants on live TV, so I'll just have to pretend that I'm very excited.
So this is even amazing. So when I try to simulate the WAN,
Can I ask, what is the actual milliseconds on that 19.5?
well,
Is it essentially network latency? That's how long it takes in your simulated WAN scenario.
so in the simulated WAN here, it was around 2 seconds here.
Versus 10 minutes. Got it.
And the network latency was set to in the network link conditioner, I think something like through 100 milliseconds or something like that.
Okay, so 100 milliseconds. A lot of you. Okay, so for those of you in this conversation, we've lost a couple people on Zoom. The conversation about milliseconds has to do with the delay you get across a wide area network. 100 milliseconds is like from one, if your server's on one side of the United States and you're on the other side, or maybe you're on the East Coast of the United States and you're going to Europe, something like that. So it's kind of a bigger company network kind of situation. And so it really helps in that scenario. So here's the issue with this that I have, right? So this is a compelling reason to upgrade to 19.5. The problem with 19.5 is it's full of some nasty bugs that they have to fix, right? So
Yeah, but the good news is that Claris is listening, and hotfix called 19.5.2 is coming basically because the way they are fixing those critical bugs is they are reversing those features to the behavior before 19.5. So it's a relatively easy fix in terms of labor.
Okay.
And so it should be easy to
they're unwinding. They're going back to the old code on those bugs. Okay.
Okay, so this was amazing result, but let's try to elaborate a little bit on what that means. So when you will actually feel the improved performance of the new FileMaker 19.5 and summary calculations. So as you saw from the charts, when you have a slower server, the impact is higher. When you have a slow network, that impact is extremely high. Now, as Richard already mentioned, the important thing is if the data is not in your cache yet, which can happen either when you work with the data for the first time or when someone else has modified the data, because when someone else modifies your records, all clients get a message from the server, hey, clear the cache because there is no reason to keep the data, it's out of date. So if on the server or on a different client, someone runs a replace field contents on all your 1,000, 100,000 records, whatever you summary that you have calculated from those 100,000 records using your cache data will need to be recalculated either on the server or by downloading the data to your client again, which means that if you have a busy database where the data keeps changing all the time, that can be the situation when you will extremely benefit from calculating summaries on the server. And one thing that I forgot to add to this slide, which is also a typical use case, is if you develop the database in a smart way that you actually don't need the data, if you only need the summary but don't need the data, and if you make sure in your scripts and layouts to avoid anything that would cause FileMaker Pro to download the data from the server, then the benefit from using the summary fields calculated on the server can be huge.
Impressive. When will summaries be calculated? Oh yeah, this is a good one. Let's talk about that. Let's do this.
This is actually the information shared by Clarice when the summary field will be calculated on the server, and this is the screenshot of Clarice website where they listed when the conditions for calculating summary field on the host. And they forgot to mention one thing there, which however is logical. Both client and server need to be at version 19.5 or later, and for this to work. The other conditions are the server needs to be a little bit bored. If it's too busy, it will not opt to do that. And if you're summarizing less than 25 records, it will also not bother. The main reason for this is when you display list view, and for that list view, FileMaker Pro automatically immediately loads all the records needed for the list view plus 25 records up and 25 records down. So whenever you work with a single record, there is a high probability that you actually get 25 records downloaded to the client anyway. And obvious conditions like if the summary fields requires calculation that needs to be evaluated on the client anyway, there is no way to calculate it on the server.
All right, cool. What if the entire what if you at the client level have 100% of the cache for that field? Is it going to try to do it on the server still, or is it going to let you do it?
It's actually calculating on the client, at least according to my tests.
Okay, so
what I did is in the bench test. Let me reopen it here. This is the test that I was running with. I was actually running those 4 buttons here, test A2, A4, B2, B4. Those were the 4 tests that I was running. And this is local, so you will see very, very small values here as a time measurement. But I was simply clicking these buttons again. So when I clicked them for the first time, I got the results without the cache. Then I clicked them again, and all the results after clicking the same button again was under a second. In all cases, with no exception.
Okay. You know, that's what we need is a button or a step in FileMaker that clears the cache on the client.
Well, I think users probably don't need it so much, but it would be extremely beneficial for my test tool, because then I would be able to automate testing, running all the tests with empty cache. So
yeah, well, I asked Clay about it. And Clay said, "Well, just go into your command line and go to find the caches and clear them." I'm like,
Well, that's what I'm doing. But in order to do this, I need to quit FileMaker Pro, clear the cache, relaunch FileMaker Pro, try to automate this 111 times.
Yeah, I know. They're not being very cooperative in that, so that's fine. Well, okay. Question time from folks. So the answer. So the thing is, 19.5 is great. If you have a lot of summaries and you have a very distributed network of people on your network, and you're running a lot of summaries, if you're running a lot of summaries, I probably should reach to the internet and slap you already for doing that, because you know that we don't say to do that. It's like sorting giant portals, etc. MBS can clear the cache. No, yes or no?
There are a few functions in MBS that could be used to clear the cache, but still you would need to quit and relaunch FileMaker in order for the cleared cache to take effect. And by the way, if you try to clear the cache, delete the cache before quitting FileMaker Pro, you will be trying to delete open files. So that's not possible. So you would have to move it to trash, then quit FileMaker, relaunch it, and you would end up having no cache. But as I said, for automated testing, this is not possible. Well, there is one alternative, but that's extremely slow. If you run a server-side script that performs replace field contents on all your records.
No.
That will immediately invalidate all the cache data, but it will take hours.
No. We're not doing to do that one. I don't want to have to explain that to people. That'd be too much.
Yeah, Ruben's asking whether there is summary performance benefits for WebDirect. I don't think so, because on WebDirect,
it's already on the server.
Everything is calculated on the server anyway.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, that's what you got to understand is that when you do historically, when you did sorting and sub-summaries, that was the two areas in WebDirect that really were really great, okay? Because you were forcing it to be on the server. Listen, I had this specific conversation with Clay in San Antonio, the DevCon San Antonio, like 8 years ago. And he says, yes, the code is in there to do all the stuff that we're seeing, and the management team won't approve us to do it. I said, well, I said I'd handle it one of two ways. Either when you run the script step, you tell it to run on the server, so you specifically, the developer can request it, or you make sure that the server is not too busy. So 8 years later, I'm happy to say that Claris actually listened, right? Largely because I think the code was already written. Clay had already written it. So he already knew about it. He was just like, well, it's just not turned on. Real quick, HOnza, if people want to repay your hard work, can you show them real quick your products that you have available on your website, what you have to sell? Because your GoZert or GoGert or whatever you call your Go tool is awesome.
Definitely, I'm glad to. So basically, everything that can be straight purchased on the website is on the 2foryousoftware.com under the tools menu here. So we have a couple of FileMaker plugins. And if you just click here, you will see the list of all the tools. The green ones, and that's meaning of the green. The green ones are open source, but the buy button means that you can just go there and buy optional services such as paid support or consulting. In the other tools, FM Bench is actually a tool that we released as a first one related to performance optimization, and that will let you benchmark your solution and figure out where your bottleneck is and what you need to optimize.
It's actually pretty cool. If you're really trying to nail what parts of your scripts are fast and slow, FM Bench is great for that.
And on the FM Bench website or web page, you can also order even us to do the optimization for you. So basically, if you want your solution faster and you don't want to learn how to do it yourself, you can hire us to optimize it for you.
There you go. What about your iOS SDK thing? Where's that at? Because I sent someone to you the other day.
Yeah, that's called Xcode. It's a mixture of Go and Xcode, which is the Apple's developer environment. And
this makes it, a lot of people ask me about this. This makes it much easier to build an app that you're going to sell or give away on Apple's App Store. And
exactly, basically, you just drag and drop your FileMaker solution to our web tool. Click a button, wait a few minutes, and get the app built for iOS.
Yeah, I think it's really great. In fact, I need to probably play with this pretty soon. So anyway.
And by the way, we already have a few apps on the App Store. These first three are something that we built, and these other three are built by our customers.
Okay.
One of them is even listed, I think, on the in one of the top apps on the App Store for education for Spain.
Really? Okay, great.
It's this one.
All right. All right, cool. Is iPOS a point of sale system?
Yes, point of sale system.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, that's how you can build an app and get it on Apple's App Store. It's not how you build an Android app. If you want to do that, you got to work with live code on that. Different group of people. Okay.
Yeah, and if you want to see how it works, just watch this video. It's just 3 minutes long, and you will immediately get it.
Kind of a good day. It's a good information. Jacob Taylor, are you there? I need a little color commentary before I hang up.
Maybe one update on the
here.
Xgoat. Maybe one update of the Xgoat. We had a series of 5 live streams with Richard going through Xgoat, and
Yes.
here on news web, I compiled a list of all the topics that were covered there. So if you go there and click this link, you will see the direct links to every topic covered in the videos.
Nice.
That's quality stuff there. All right, cool. Whoop. Awesome stuff. Yeah, I like this a lot. This came up today. I told someone that, instead of me trying to redo training on it, how about you just buy HOnza's product, right? So there you go. So what is FM Restore API? Restore is an easy API.
So basically, for someone who knows a little bit of PHP but nothing about FileMaker Data API, this is a easy to use framework to connect PHP to or JavaScript to FileMaker Data API without actually learning Data API.
Wow. Okay. Well, Jacob Taylor, what do you think about that? Would that be useful?
Yeah, sounds cool.
All right, cool. All right, you guys have a good one. I appreciate it, everyone. Appreciate it. HOnza, thank you for coming. We greatly appreciate it. We'll catch everyone tomorrow. Tomorrow is licensing hell with the FileMaker platform. See ya. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.